Despite evidence that PG&E was responsible for repeated safety violations and involved in deadly wildfires, lawmakers have continued to benefit from its political donations. San Francisco, 8 years ago, federal investigators announced that a litany of failures by California's largest utility had caused a massive gas explosion that killed 8 people, injured 58 and incinerated a neighborhood in the San Francisco suburb of San Bruno. 2 days after that announcement, under blue skies at a baseball diamond on the edge of San Francisco's financial district, the city's mayor, Ed Lee, threw out the first pitch for a charity event sponsored by that same utility, Pacific Gas and Electric. PG&E is a great local company who gets it, the mayor, who died in 2017, said at the event. For critics of PG&E, Mr. Lee's praise was a symbol of a recurring frustration, despite evidence that the company was responsible for repeated safety violations and involved in deadly wildfires. Lawmakers in California continue to benefit from political donations from the company. Investigators are now determining whether PG&E equipment was responsible for the state's deadliest wildfire, the November inferno in and around Paradise that killed 85 people and destroyed more than 13,000 homes. A PG&E spokeswoman on Saturday confirmed that the company had cancelled a plan to pay $130 million in bonuses after an outcry by the families of fire victims. With the state's tech giants focused on their influence in Washington, perhaps no company in California is more entangled with local Democratic politics than PG&E, which in January filed for bankruptcy. PG&E's restructuring, a process that directly affects 40% of the state's residents, will test whether Governor Gavin Newsom and other Democratic leaders can push to create a company free from what critics say has been a culture of cronyism between regulators and the regulated. Their tremendous political influence at the state and local level has led them to believe that they are above scrutiny and reproach, said Aaron Peskin, a member of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors and a Democrat. If Pacific Gas and Electric spent as much time and money and effort running their gas and electrical facilities as they did on politics, they wouldn't be in this mess right now. Filings with the California Secretary of State show that PG&E, which serves 16 million customers, spent $10 million on lobbying last year. While it is not unusual for energy companies to lobby, PG&E spent roughly twice as much last year as another investor-owned utility, Southern California Edison, which has around 15 million customers. Over the past decade, filings with the California Secretary of State show that PG&E spent $9 million on around $900 in state campaign contributions. The company gave to a diverse group of candidates running for offices ranging from county board of supervisor to state treasurer. PG&E gave to both the state Democratic and Republican parties. Mr. Newsom, who was elected governor in November, does not appear as a recipient of direct donations. But the final destination of PG&E's campaign donations are in many cases unclear. Over the past decade, the company contributed around 245 times to political action committees, which in turn made their own donations. There is recognition in California that PG&E, the largest electric and gas operation in any state around the country, has an increasingly difficult job. The company delivers dangerous commodities, gas and electricity, to homes in many semi-rural areas made more vulnerable to wildfires by a changing climate. Under California law, the company is liable for fires caused by its equipment even if it was not negligent. As with many large for-profit companies, lobbying for more favorable regulations is seen as an essential cost of business. The company says its political contributions and lobbying expenses are paid for with shareholder funds, not utility customer dollars. The same is true, the company says, with its charity program. Since 2000, the company and its foundation have granted more than $100 million to nonprofit organizations. And as part of its wildfire prevention efforts, the company has spent $2.3 billion over the past 6 years to trim vegetation around power lines. Our most important responsibility is safety, and that continues to be our primary focus, said Melissa Subitin, a spokeswoman for the company. Yet California officials whose communities were devastated by the San Bruno explosion and the spate of fires that have been linked to Pacific Gas and Electric equipment say they have been frustrated in their efforts to hold the company accountable. After the pipeline explosion, the city of San Bruno sued to obtain thousands of emails between PG&E executives and the state's utility regulator, the California Public Utilities Commission. The emails revealed that a PG&E executive complained to the commission about a judge assigned to determine who should pay for pipeline upgrades, a case with major financial consequences. In what became known as the judge shopping scandal, PG&E was granted the administrative judge of its choosing. The company was fined $1 million after the scandal became public, a sanction that critics said was a slap on the wrist for a company with annual revenues of $17 billion. Other emails obtained by San Bruno described how company executives socialized and casually discussed company projects with the official meant to be regulating them. A 2010 dinner between a top PG&E lobbyist, Brian Cherry, and Michael Peavy, who was then president of the Public Utilities Commission, took place at Mr. Peavy's vacation home and became famous for the 2 bottles of good Pinot that they drank. Mr. Cherry and 2 other executives at the company were fired after the emails became public. Jim Ruane, the former mayor of San Bruno, tried to have the staff of the California Attorney General at the time, Kamala Harris, bring charges for what he said was illegal cooperation between the company and regulators.